to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a very, very interesting, insightful interaction, I'm sure. Today, we are here to talk about career opportunities in the retail sector in Canada. And we have a wonderful presenter, Raymond Chow from Sobeys. And I will be introducing him soon. Before we get to that, we have a few things to take care of. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 and the Mississaugas of the Credit. A few quick webinar housekeeping guidelines. This webinar is being recorded. The length is going to be approximately an hour. All participants, please, I would request you to please keep your lines muted when the presentation is going on. There is an opportunity for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please type your questions in the chat window and let us know if you're interested in asking the question, and we'll be happy to unmute you, or we can ask the question on your behalf. Please take time to complete the post-webinar survey. And the recording will also be shared. Please do contact your employment specialist. And we are hosting this from home. Like I told you in the beginning, there will be some noises or technical difficulties, so please bear with us. Quick overview. Many of you are the program participants, so you're already aware of some of the services, but a quick overview on the program. Canada Infonet is a pre-arrival employment acceleration and mentorship program. It's a free national 8-week program delivered by JVS Toronto, along with other industry partners. We've served over 8,000 English and French-speaking immigrants since 2016, and we have dedicated employment specialists who can support professionals arriving in the next 12 months with employment services such as employment preparation and job search, connection to a Canadian mentor, resume and cover letter for Canada, Canadian workplace culture, and expectations for success at work, employer-led webinars such as this one, online job matching platform, and access to job postings and virtual job fairs, and of course, soft skills sessions on customer service and business communication. With that, I'd love to introduce Raymond Chow, who's the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Talent Acquisition Lead with the Human Resources Department at Sobeys. Raymond Chow graduated from Camosun College with a diploma in business administration and later earned his MBA from Royal Roads University in Victoria, BC. Raymond is a collaborative professional with more than 30 years of progressive business experience spanning across multiple industries, such as community development, supporting vulnerable populations, global retail management, renewable energy, hospitality management, oil and gas, municipal and federal government, and data research. Raymond is an immigrant himself from Hong Kong and arrived in Canada when he was very young, 8 years old. And mentorship was one of his passions, and he volunteers his time as a mentor and is part of the mentorship advisory group for the Calgary Regional Immigrant Employment Council. He's known for influencing change, building strong relationships, removing barriers, and creating a safe space for people to thrive. Today, he is, like I said, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Talent Acquisition Lead at Sobeys. And Raymond, this is our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And the floor is all yours.
Thank you. So I'd like to start this meeting in a good way. And I'd like to do my own land acknowledgement from where I am. So in the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we honor and acknowledge the traditional territories and present-day lands of the Niitsitapi, Blackfoot Confederacy, and the First Peoples of Treaty 7 region, which includes Tsuut'ina, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, and the Stoney Nakoda, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Bokinstis is a Blackfoot word meaning where the Bow River meets the Elbow River, which we now call the city of Calgary. It is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. I make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those in whose territory I reside. So thank you for having me today. My name is Raymond Chow, and I am the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Talent Lead. As you can imagine, the whole world has changed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Within the retail sector, there have been some real changes that I experienced. Being known as a frontline worker in retail is incredible. Requiring to pivot as an organization to the changing demands of customers, health regulations, and the labor force. The way consumers shop for goods changed dramatically. It increased demand for our online shopping, where we created new platforms. It's also increased demand on the simple basic goods like canned foods, water, cleaning supplies, and other paper goods. The kind of buying that occurred during that timeline created opportunities for us where our shelves were bare. And then we look at our workforce planning and the health protocols that we had to integrate in terms of the demand for labor at all levels of the organization, especially at the stores. There were employees who wanted to take extended leaves of absence because they needed to take care of the children who weren't able to attend the traditional schools. And when online school was offered, we needed to accommodate those needs. We also needed to recruit additional employees to cover the leaves of absence. And that meant thousands of new employees that were interviewed and recruited. We also had to improve our communications with the disruptions of the existing policies. We're in a bit of a place where how do we move forward and how do we continue the work we do? One of the things that we were tasked with was contact tracing for affected personnel. We needed to find out where they worked and who they worked with so that we can communicate the impacts for our employee base. And one of the gifts that I find this COVID is that the acceptance of remote work environments. And so today, I'm not in an office, but where I am is I'm actually at my lake where I'm working, and so that's one of those gifts. There was also increased usage of healthcare systems, mental health, fatigue, anxieties. The increased demand for the personal protective equipment with the environmental interventions such as plexiglass, single-use gloves, masks, face shields, and hand sanitizers, and gowns for pharmacy. I'm sure you've seen all that throughout the COVID experience. But at the end of the day, we look at the disruptions in business. There were reduced hours. There were reduction in customers because of the health regulations. And some of our competitors, the businesses have closed during COVID, and some of them have never reopened. The crazy sales from year over year due to the pandemic buying increases our business reporting. But the challenge is now, since we have 3, 4, 5 times of the growth, what's the expectation for next year and how will that impact our forecasting for labor? And the biggest learning for me is really about holding firm to the people strategy and taking care of our employees, being sensitive to the needs and to the unique responding to meet their requests.
Raymond, gentle reminder to share your screen.
Oh, yes. Pardon me.
No worries.
Let me do that right now. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So let's talk about who Sobeys is. And Sobeys is a wholly owned subsidiary of Empire Company Limited, which we're headquartered in Stellarton, Nova Scotia. And it's a proud Canadian organization with more than 111 years of experience in the food retail business. And we are only one of 2 national grocery retailers in Canada. And we serve the food shopping needs of Canadians with approximately 1,500 stores in all 10 provinces under retail banners that include Sobeys, Safeway, IGA, Foodland, Freshco, Thrifty Foods if you're out west, Lawton Drugs, as well as more than 350 retail fuel locations And Sobeys, its franchisees and affiliates employ approximately 123,000 employees across Canada. Our core values are our strength and the foundation of who we are. We're customer driven, we're people powered, we're community engaged, and results oriented. And our purpose is we are a family nurturing families. It's our collective passion and mission to nurture the things that make life better, including great experiences, families, communities, and the lives of our employees. It gives our work meaning, and it's why many of us choose Sobeys as a career. When we talk about our banners, we look at all these number of banners, but really our purpose comes to life through our business strategy and our banner promises, which sits atop our banners and giving space to all of our customers and understanding the role that they play. Our 5 core retail food formats and related businesses are designed to have the right offering in the right size stores of each individual market we serve. From our full service formats to the convenience format, each tailored is to satisfy the unique shopping needs of our customers. Across all our banners from coast to coast, we continue to foster a family culture of care, of trust, of respect for each other. And we focus on growth for ourselves, for others, and for the company. Together, our employees, franchisees, and diverse retail network are dedicated to nurturing our customers in providing exceptional shopping and food experiences and putting their needs and their families' needs first. We also take tremendous pride in nurturing our communities by proudly growing, showcasing, and giving back to communities in which we serve. We absolutely have to understand our customer needs in order to deliver great service. And one of our goals is really about helping our people bring their best selves to work through training, through tools, leadership. The talent development is a priority for our organization as we need to understand the changing demographics and what individuals need for their own self-development. We're all unique and we all need different things. And we recognize that. And whether this is their current role or future role, some of the programs in place is self-paced learning and the learning platforms that shapes our views and builds capacities for our employees and leadership. The cultural competencies, the soft skills, and of course the hard skills to navigate the changing demands of the Canadian labor market. One of the examples I wanted to bring forward is that there's an education allowance or there's opportunities to share costs for employees who want to develop a language. And one of the supports is if you wanted to speak French, and that's something I'm striving towards as well, is that the organization would provide some resources for that and would cost share it. And by doing this, we're able to serve our community with pride and locally and across Canada. And we're able to deliver consistent execution results. So we look at, what's our purpose and what's our values. So our values represent who we are at our best. It emphasizes our external customers and results while reinforcing our people and communities. So in doing this, we spoke with over 500 employees across Canada during this process, and this reflected our strong foundation while setting the stage for a strong future. We wanted to co-develop this with our employees in mind. Our internal environment is also one that reflects a culture of care, trust, and respect. That's fundamental for us. We strive to do what is right. Our company has a rich history serving Canadians for more than 111 years, as mentioned earlier. It's a priority for us to ensure that our teams, our business practices, and our partners reflect the diversity of our customers and the communities we serve. Our purpose is really to be nurturing families, and we prioritize fostering an inclusive environment, one that reflects a culture of care, trust, and respect. Diversity, equity, inclusion, innovation, and business success go hand in hand. We can't operate with only one or the other. So it's very, very important that we do have alignment in all. when we talk about sorry, I was on mute, pardon me. Just going back to the slide, Sobeys, so customer driven is really about Sobeys, its franchisees and affiliates and customers continue to be a priority for our stores and our backstage offices. Whether you're seeking a unique shopping experience located in a busy urban center or you're in a small neighborhood market, we are a food store committed to providing exceptional customer service with the diverse needs of Canadians in mind. Stores that provide an array of grocery items and specialty departments, including the pharmacy, the bakery, deli, meat and floral, as well as coffee kiosks, wine and spirits, and fuel centers. We also have cash and carry outlets operated by the TRH Atlantic, supplying food products to independent food services and independent institutional channels in Atlantic and Western Canada. This is very much like the almost like a Costco model for large volume buying. And we look at our people. So our people at Sobeys, we have increased investment in programs such as diversity inclusion, recognition platforms, and training. The tagline, "Our people make the difference," reflects a culture of care and trust and respect, as well as recognizing that everyone has a role to play in making us be at our best. We compete and thrive by attracting and retaining the best talent from a broad, diverse talent pool. We equip all teammates with the tools they need to understand their roles in building a fair, inclusive environment and gives them access to structures and systems that consider the individual's unique needs. Our inclusive policies and programs support meaningful culture change at Sobeys. We foster a culture of inclusion, focusing on strengthening our inclusive leadership capabilities with senior leaders and embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizational policies and programs. Examples of this includes flexible work arrangements, flex day policies, and enhanced benefit support for maternity and parental leaves for employees who are either gender transitioning or they need time for themselves. We need people to be at the best in order to advance our leadership position within this grocery industry. We need to select the best people from a broad range of talent. We are systematically enhancing our recruiting and people development processes to ensure fairness and to broaden our talents, including store management training programs, leadership succession, and hiring. So we are committed to our communities. And in this, and as such, recognition that extends beyond direct community investments is to include the work we do with our sustainability and local initiatives. People are the heart of our business. We understand the importance of fueling healthy bodies and minds. Our focus on nutrition and community food programs helps us make a difference in the lives of people from coast to coast. We are proud to share stories from our fiscal 2020 year that highlights our differentiated and localized responses to the COVID-19 pandemic through the Community Action Fund that celebrates how we engage our teammates and how we demonstrate our culture of always stepping up in times of crisis. Within our 2021 fiscal year, we will unveil an innovative community investment endeavor that will move the needle on the emotion and physical well-being of Canadians. We remove barriers to healthy and affordable food. We are there to help when a natural disaster strikes or when a community faces a time of crisis. From providing immediate assistance from food, supplies, to keeping our doors open as an essential service. We do all we can to help our local communities in times of needs. And to show the results, I want to be very clear that our results reflects not just our intent to drive results, but our commitment to do so consistently. We bring a winning attitude and innovation while ensuring we act in a fair and ethical ways. Staying true to our roots is one of the ways in which we create better products for Canadian families. Our Sobeys banner began as a local family-run business in Atlantic Canada. And to honor this heritage, we strongly support local producers, growers, and suppliers across Canada. We actively pursue opportunities to collaborate with local and national partners who share our values and deliver on concepts that demonstrate sustainable innovations, which is a hallmark to our purchasing program. Sourcing sustainable products is an important part of our plan to create a better product for our families today and for the future. We strive to ensure the long-term viability of our natural resources and the fair treatment of people and animals through our sustainable seafood, animal welfare, and ethical sourcing practices. We are proud to have been recognized by Fair Trade Canada as the 2020 Business Innovator of the Year for offering a variety of ethically sourced, certified, and fair trade products such as the bananas, flower bouquets, and we are committed to delivering products that our customers can feel good about. So now I've talked to you about our organization in terms of outwardly, I think my screen just stopped sharing. Let me just go back to that.
We can still see the screen.
Raymond. Oh, you can still see the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go back down to here. I think for some reason, okay, there we go. Let's go back down to here, which is where I want it to be. And so let's talk about the job opportunities now that we've had a glimpse of what we do as an organization. So there's 4 parts of the Sobeys business where they support the overall organization. And Voila is the e-commerce segment of our business. And this was instrumental during the onset of COVID. And what I would like to do is I'd like to ask Leisha to play a short video of the Voila for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Hey, Sarah.
Oh, hey.
Nice to see you. Mind if we ask you a few questions?
Of course.
Voila by Sobeys is ahead of the technology curve. What sets us apart?
We partnered with Ocado to build large-scale automated warehouses like this one, powered by their technology. By fulfilling our online orders from a warehouse, not a store, we have better control over the freshness and the quality of our products, and we have better visibility into the availability of inventory, so we can make more accurate promises to our customers. We show up on time with everything our customers ordered.
Tell me about the launch this year. Any surprises?
The customer reception to Voila has been far greater than we could have ever imagined. We have seen consistent week-over-week growth since launch.
How many teammates are there?
We have about 500 teammates on Voila already, and we expect to have 1,500 at scale.
How big is this customer fulfillment center?
Our Vaughan CFC is about 250,000 square feet. That's 15 hockey rinks. We have 3 temperature zones, ambient, chilled, and frozen. Come on, I'll show you.
Wow, it's chilly in here. So these are all the products arriving to be unpacked?
This is the start of the process. It's where we receive and decant all the product. Our teammates are checking the quality of every item and entering the expiry date into the system so we can manage freshness. The system tells us how many products to put in every tote The totes then go into the hive until they're needed for customer orders.
How many products does Voila offer?
Today we have 17,000, but the facility has the ability to handle up to 39,000 over time.
What's the most popular item ordered?
Ooh, bananas or strawberries, depending on the day.
Do you have a favorite item to order?
Peaches.
This looks like a robot party.
These are the robots. They are busy moving totes of product around the hive as needed for customer orders.
How many are out there?
Hundreds.
They're moving fast.
Yeah, they move about 4 meters every second. They take 10 commands every second, and they can pick a 50-item grocery order in about 5 minutes. More than that, they can actually self-diagnose when they need repairs and maintenance, so they can come off, recharge, and get back out there.
What's a pick station and how do we ensure order accuracy?
The pick station is the next step of our process. The robots bring down totes of product as needed for customer orders. Our teammates take the product and put it into the bag to go home to the customer. The system tells us which product to put in which bag, so we make sure we have product quality.
Sarah, what about demographics? Who's using Voila?
Well, our top customers are young, growing families with kids at home. This we kind of suspected, but the interesting part is that our service has had a much broader appeal. We see couples and singles, suburban and urban, you name it.
Cool van.
Our vans, the last step of the process. After the customer's order is picked, the totes are loaded onto frames. The frames are loaded onto vans to then go home to the customer. Our vans are also temperature controlled. We have the ambient, the chilled, and the frozen section. But the real magic in all of this is our teammates. They are friendly and professional and delivering exceptional customer experiences.
All the trucks are different. What's your favorite graphic on the outside?
The peach.
How many vans do we have on the road?
As of today, we have about 150 vans on the road.
What are we doing to stay ahead of competitors?
We are constantly listening to feedback from our customers to continue to improve our offering. We are also partnering with Ocado on ongoing innovation. There are new technology releases all the time.
True or false? I heard a Montreal CFC is on the way.
True. We will be opening another CFC in Montreal in early 2022, serving the province of Quebec and the Ottawa area. We are excited to build on the strength of our existing IGA.net business as we then roll out Voila par IGA.
Okay, Sarah, final question. What's next for Voila?
After that, we'll be heading west. We will be building another CFC in Calgary to serve the province of Alberta. We'll also be launching our curbside pickup service to hundreds of stores across the country over the coming years. I want to thank everybody who's been part of this journey with us. This is just the beginning. Voila, your groceries delivered, just like that.
Thank you for that, Leisha. And just wanted to carry on with our presentation today. Hopefully you found that a better understanding of Voila, the e-commerce segment of our business, and you know, where all orders will be left at the customer's doorstep by our lobby. I mean, that's a really driving factor for us. The second part of our business is our retail support center, which is the RSC locations. And this supply chain is to support each individual store across Canada. This is where all things you would find in each of the stores, like Safeways, the Sobeys, the IGA, Foodlands, very much like the backbone of how stores can replenish their inventory every night. The retail stores, with many banners discussed earlier, represent Sobeys and Farm Boy and Foodland Freshco. There's also the backstage portion of it, which is the corporate offices. There's a total of 9 corporate offices across Canada. They're in Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, and of course, Stellarton, the home of Sobeys. The Sobeys growth has come from many acquisitions along the way, and as a result, it also acquired the respective corporate offices, and that's why we have so many corporate offices across Canada. So what's really exciting is that currently there are approximately 545 active postings on our career page, and that covers positions from all 4 parts of the Sobeys business. As we utilize social media, job posters, virtual hiring events, and community partners to share job opportunities, I'm sure if you had seen the most recent virtual hiring event for the new Freshco at Jane and Denison, we partnered with JVS, and as a result, we were able to secure 58% of the candidates through this network, and they were hired. So now that you know a bit about some of the opportunities, let's talk about your resumes and what you might want to do to stand out amongst the many. So in my experience, no matter how seasoned you are or how little experience you have in creating a resume, it takes time and it takes patience. And one of the fundamental things that we need to remember is, as a recruiter, we may be reviewing over 100 resumes and responses for their job postings. And this means that the resume you create needs to stand out amongst the many documents, the files or referrals that come across their desks. In our digital age, there may be technology that assists our recruiters with the pre-screening and the selection process. And the most suitable candidates based on the job postings and parameters. I mean, there's no magic formula on crafting a resume. However, I think it's important for you to know that the position you're asking for in terms of essential skills, it's important that you do the research on the organization or the industry, and also it may be similar to the organizations themselves. What you have to do is create this unique identity of yours. And the important pieces I want to talk about is the language and descriptions, the content, and how clear and how concise are you, and what's relevant. And that in itself will prepare you for interviews. And I'll share with you, for me, what has worked well for the past. So I've always accompanied my resume with a one-page cover letter that helps the recruiter get to know who I am and what my skill sets are, and do they align with the posting. Secondly is, it's important for the recruiter to know why you want to work there and how your characteristics could support the existing culture of the organization. Your resume, it should be brief. There should be a summary statement of who you are and what your accomplishments are in a way that supports the job posting expectations. Now, we talked about language earlier. So language and how you describe yourself are very important because it's like your fingerprint or your own identity. You will need it to determine if they're looking for a high energy individual or perhaps someone who is more reserved. I mean, your resume should demonstrate how you have mastered the skills. And for example, you might say, I've partnered and I've influenced with identified stakeholders across the organization to achieve corporate milestones and annual goals. So that's a pretty broad statement, but it really shows what you've done and what the outcomes have been. And there are many theories about the length of your resume. If you're applying for a position that is a senior role, the expectation is you'll have to demonstrate how you advanced with progressive experiences, which will result in no more than, I'd say, about 3 pages in length. And 3 pages can tell a lot about who you are as a person and as an employee and what your strengths would be. And the information should be clear, concise, and relevant to the position you're applying for. The expectation with working hard on a resume is to receive a call for an interview. I mean, that's really the end game. So typical questions I ask by recruiters are situational questions where they can evaluate individual responses based on the STAR method, if you've heard about it, which is, what's the situation? What was a task or goal you set for yourselves? And what actions did you take to be successful? And what were the results? By answering these questions, it helps the recruiter understand where you started, what you did, and what the outcomes were. And the outcomes can be positive, that you were successful, or it could have been, it became a learning opportunity for you to discover something you didn't know about yourself. And that itself is really important for recruiters, because it really helps them set the stage for who they are and how you're presenting yourself. So now that you understand how to perfect your resume and you're ready to have a conversation with a recruiter about your experiences, what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to please go to our website. That's www.sobeyscareers.com to find your next career path. And on behalf of Sobeys, its franchisees and affiliates, I thank you for inviting me to participate in today's webinar. And thank you, Miigwech. Continue being safe, take care, and good luck with your job search. And at this point, I will like to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Raymond. That was really lots of good information, and I'm sure really helpful for anyone who's participating in terms of understanding what Sobeys, your value systems are, and what are some of the roles that you're hiring. So there's a lot of good information there.
Absolutely. It's really important to understand the organization and ensuring that your values align to the values of the organization, because that means that you can contribute to foster that same environment.
Yeah.
And also it helps you learn what the expectations are.
Yeah. And I have a very interesting question, and this comes from the video, and that was a really cool video about the voila, the automated systems, and very fantastic to look at, how everything works. Like I'm one of your users, so I'm on the other end. It's so simple to sit and order things, but this is all the work that's happening at the back end, which is fantastic, right? So that's the bit. So AI is a big thing in the future of jobs, in today's jobs, in fact. So what would you say are some of the jobs associated to AI that would be in demand?
Well, that's a really good question, because with AI, we're still learning and we're still developing. But what we do is we look at our data. So we look for data scientists. We look for individuals who understand technology, like voila, like the platform, because the platform itself doesn't operate on its own. It requires data on the back end to be collected to know, well, who are our users and what are they actually looking for? And so when we look for surveys, we look for generational values, we look at the demographics, all that plays a role into it. And we have data scientists in the background that helps us with this. And it continues to evolve, because as with AI, it continues to learn as it works through the systems. Now, bringing back to one of the posters that I'd sent out, which had an AI filter into it, which is called SAM. And so when you go into our website and a career site, SAM is the artificial intelligence chatbot that will help you navigate through the site itself. So you don't have to try to find your way through blindly. So Sam will ask you some questions, and when you respond, Sam will help you navigate to the next steps.
Yeah. Is that in some way also connected to the applicant tracking systems? Because through our program, that's another thing that we talk to our participants about how it's not only important to look at how your resume kind of looks visually, but also need to think about how the process works, because a lot of the bigger organizations use applicant tracking systems. So
absolutely.
Yeah, if you could talk a little bit about that also, that'd be great.
Sure. Our applicant tracking system is tied to the entire process of the recruitment stage, because it will help us identify what skill sets we're looking for specifically to the job postings. That's why it's so important that when you see the job posting, and even though you have the skill set, you have to convey that to the recruiter who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
So you really have to almost almost have to duplicate the actual posting itself, and
Mm-hmm.
how does that set
Keywords,
into
right?
your resume? Keywords, absolutely. When they say, you know, what have you, so some of the keywords might be delivering of great customer service. Help us understand what that looks like. And especially put in delivering customer service, because those are some key attributes and key skill sets. And you know, focusing on technical skills is good, but with customer service, we're talking about soft skills. What
Yeah.
did you do? How did you make your customers feel? Did they feel good about the experience? Did they feel, and if they didn't, what did you do to help them through that? So those are important pieces of the customer service. And at the end of the day, we always are delivering customer service to our customers, but also internally with how we work together as our colleagues.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay, good.
But you did, like, I'm getting a few questions specifically about some roles. Like,
Yes.
it could be, and there may be people looking for career transitions, or there may be people looking for some specific roles. Could you just talk a little bit about at like organizations like yours? There's jobs at the corporate level, there's jobs
Sure.
at the store level. So what would be some of
Yes.
those roles that you're actively hiring for?
So in our corporate roles, we look for accountants, we look for lawyers, we're looking for communication specialists, marketing people. We also look for HR folks as well in delivering other pieces, for example, learning development, or we're looking for HR processes, ones who does more of the onboarding areas, and we look at we align ourselves with also with engineering departments as well. And if you're going to school and universities, we're also looking at potential internships programs and looking at mentorship programs in that regard. And so there's lots of, I mean, when you look at the role, I think it's important to know where you are in the geographic sense. And the corporate positions are usually in the corporate locations, which is the Vancouver, the Victoria, the Calgary, Edmonton areas, and the areas that I was talking about. And you don't have to be. I mean, you can be on a career path. If you're in your early stages, that's okay.
Yeah.
I think our commitment is that if you're in the early stages and you want to develop, we'll help you.
Yeah.
At the store level, if you want to start as a cashier and if you want to be a store manager at the end of the day, we'll help you.
Yeah.
So we just need to understand what your career path looks like, what your individual development plan is, and how you will work through that with your leaders, because there will be opportunities. And we have this program. It's quite interesting and neat. It's called Nourish You, and Nourish You helps people navigate through the stores to build a better experience. And we are absolutely committed to ensuring the employee experience is good, because Sobeys is an employer, but you know, if you want to join Sobeys, we're happy to have you. And if you want to explore other avenues, we're also happy to do that as well, because Sobeys has so many different business lines, and within each business line, there's different skill sets that are required.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. There's lots of professional designation jobs as well, and there's jobs that don't require professional designations. And we also do contract work. We have part-time work. We have full-time work. We have all sorts of things that helps us navigate through our growth. And in tomorrow's jobs, we don't know that quite yet, but we are continuing exploring that.
Yeah, and that's something we talk about with our program participants. As you know, they're all still, many of most of the participants in the program, they're still outside the country, getting ready to come to Canada. So as part of the preparation, we also talk about sometimes, although this is not the ideal situation, but recognizing where your own value system is and finding an organization which kind of can nourish that. So when the fit is right, it is okay to start at a couple of levels below where you were at.
Absolutely.
Because as long as you know where you want to go in your career and you understand that the organization has the environment for it, you will still sort of, you will get there in your career, right? So that's important to remember as well.
Yes, it's very true, but you're also very, very vocal, and there has to be a plan in place. And so when the plan is established, that whether it's yourself and your leadership, make sure that your leadership is aware of your plans and what you want to do to meet those objectives. Because if you plan in a silo, meaning that if you plan by yourself and you don't involve anybody with that plan, it'll be very difficult for you to advance because nobody knows what you want to do. So it's important to communicate why it's important, what you need, and everybody's individual. So it's so important for you to have open communication and never feel that you can't make it, because when you include your partners along the way, you will make it. I guarantee you that. And one of the successes I've had with my pre-arrived international trained professional is that my mentee has now found a job that he really wants in his field. And we started the conversation about 2 months ago. He landed into Calgary about 2 weeks ago, and now he has a job in supply chain, which is what he was looking for. And it doesn't have to be within Sobeys. It can be anywhere in the Canadian market space.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some interesting questions coming up here.
Sure.
Alonzo wants to know if Sobeys offer uniquely food, or do you also source tech from other markets at Sobeys?
What do you mean by uniquely offered foods?
Like, is it focused only on food, but in terms of tech, I think, and that's why I asked Alonzo, if he wants to ask it, but apparently it's midnight in Taiwan, so he can't ask directly. So yeah, he wants to know about the tech aspect, about where you source tech.
You mean tech that we use for our purposes, or for tech for resale?
For your purposes.
For our purpose, so we source out tech from all aspects of providers, and we have a process in terms of how do we source out with tenders. And so whenever there's a need, it will go out publicly and to all the different individuals who are interested. And if you follow Sobeys, Sobeys will issue tenders, and then they'll take bids from all the different prospective suppliers. And when the suppliers come back to us, it meets our values, and it's important that they align, because if it doesn't align with our values, then it would be difficult for us to continue a relationship.
Yeah. Alonzo also wants to know if there's a centralized innovation business unit at Sobeys.
That's a great question. And we're developing. We do have an innovation hub, and the innovation hub, I'm not as familiar with it, because this is I've joined Sobeys about 3 months ago. But in that short 3 months, I've learned so much about Sobeys, and I know that there's an innovation hub that we connect with, and that's how we get to do these really creative projects, and we pilot them.
Fantastic.
And that's how Voila sort of evolved, was from that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And Seerath has a very interesting question. She says, thank you for this presentation. I would like to understand, what do the opportunities look like for someone who has to navigate from a different segment of retail, like apparel or FMCG?
A different, sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Different segment of retail, like if they're switching over from apparel to maybe FMCG, or if they're coming into Sobeys,
Yes.
how does it work? Like also, how can they reflect their experience to suit what the job description has?
Okay. So, good question about that. When we look at retail is about delivering good customer service. And it doesn't matter what you're selling as long as you understand the product. When you understand apparel, you understand, the size, the fits, the type of material. But when you look at produce, you ask yourself the question, would I buy it? And how would I merchandise it? Same way you would merchandise clothing is how you merchandise food. And right now at Sobeys, um, all the shelves will have its own home. And so there's a crew behind the scenes that talks about how do we format the stores and and product placement. And product placement is key because of whether it's a color scheme, whether it's a feature sale, all those are still unique, are still very good skills to have because you are in retail. You understand what customers are looking for, what they're demanding, and the kind of inventory you have, and how you present it, and how do you communicate, how do you interact with customers. That's really the key part. That merchandise, I mean, let's go back for a minute. Paper goods and coffee sells itself. But when you have a featured product coming in, let's say, for example, you have a new spice coming in and you want people to sample or test it or to really try it, you would blend it, you would market it with recipes. Just like with clothing, you would market it as, these pieces align with whether it's casual, whether it's professional wear. I mean, those are some of the things that I would think would align to it. So having customer experience and retail experience can help you navigate through any retailer in Canada, in my mind.
Those are excellent points. Thank you, Raymond. My next question is about international work experience. And
Yes.
I want to take an sort of employer take on this because, as you know, Canadian employers are sort of infamous for not validating international experience most of the times, right?
Yes.
So I just want to understand, how does Sobeys approach this, and if someone has experience abroad, like in a different segment, and
Yeah.
but maybe having relevant experience to what you're doing, how do you approach that? Like, do you consider that as experience that can be translated to Canada, or do you think, oh, this person may still not understand the Canadian segment? If so, how does this person gain that experience? So if you could just share some insights into that, that'll be great.
Sure. For the Sobeys organization, there's positions where they will articulate that there's no experience required. We do the training. And for Sobeys, in terms of corporate setting, if it's a professional designation, that, for example, if you're applying for a finance position where you would need a designation because you're doing corporate reporting or government reporting, you would have to have your credentials to be assessed to make sure that you meet the qualifications. In my mind, in my experience with our recruiters, they don't look up for Canadian experience. They're looking for experience in the job families that you have. And because of we as an organization, we're looking for diversity of teams. That is fundamental for us. Is we want people who are different. We want people who can bring skills to the organization, and because that will set us apart from our competitors. And I look at it from a viewpoint is that if we present a first world problem, looking at it through a first world lens, we'll get a very first world solution. But if we look at a first world problem from a third world lens or international lens, we'll have an even better solution.
Yeah, that's I hope more employers think that way. which is changing slowly in Canadian markets, right? They do understand the value of the skills that and experience that international professionals bring.
Absolutely. And being as large as Sobeys is, we have a responsibility. And as being a large employer, we can impact change. And we're doing that. As we look at our commitments to our communities, as our communities evolve and change, we want to reflect our community. So in order to do that, we must be open to recruitment of individuals who represent our community. There's many different stores that are opening up in the Canadian market space, and have you heard of the store Chalos? That's CHALOS, and that's really about bringing the unique experiences from international spices and foods into the Canadian space, because when you look around us, immigration is our fundamental driver of mitigating our labor needs. So when you have all this talent here, we have to evolve, we have to change. And I hope that every organization feels that way. I know that Sobeys is very committed to doing that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that response. I have another question on this is on, I think it's got to do with transferable skills. So we'll talk about that eventually. But the specific example is about, Alonzo has experience in B2B sales.
Yes.
But how do you translate in terms of Sobeys, because that's more B2C? So that would also mean, how do you demonstrate your transferable skills? So if you could talk a little bit about that in terms of, one is while you apply for the job, and also how do you demonstrate that in your interviews as well? That'll be great.
Okay. Now, I can't speak of this about Sobeys, but what I can speak of is generally in retail, because I haven't been in Sobeys long enough to know about that. But when you talk about B2B sales, we look at relationship building, where you look at buyers within a corporate space. So when I worked for Walmart Canada, there's a buying team, and the buying team would have relationships with large organizations like Nestle, like Unilever. And so when you talk about B2B sales, it's developing those marketing channels and those relationships where you can bring in the product lines, where you can test the product lines. And so from that aspect, at Sobeys, we definitely have buyers, like any retailer would have. But I don't know how what the structure looks like currently. But as time evolves, I would think that the buying that happens is very similar to any organization in the business world. Does that help?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But in general, like if someone is moving from a different sector, how, like, what are the aspects that they should focus on? Like, how do you sell the idea, though you don't have the specific experience? How do you sell the idea to a recruiter that I can do this job, right? Like,
yes.
right. That's where the transferable skill aspects, like the focus should be, right?
The transferable skills is not is about how could you. Okay, so for example, let's take the transferable skill of communications.
Exactly.
And the way you communicate has to shift and change in terms of what somebody's looking for. And that's through, we tell stories about what we've done in the past.
Yep.
So what is your story, and how does your story can meet a need of what I need today?
Yeah.
And so
in the context
story,
of Sobeys, right? Like you can't
Sobeys,
just talk about your context. You have to translate it to the employer's context. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to understand what the vision of Sobeys is and look at what you did in the past. So when we talk about customer service, how do you make a customer feel great about their experience? which is very, very broad. So whether you're selling a car, you're selling a hairstyle, a haircut, or selling some goods that they can take home and experience themselves, or whether it's a stereo system or a TV system. I mean, what's important is, do you understand what the need is, and are you able to fulfill that need with your skill set? It sounds simple, but and it is, but you have to understand the context of what is being asked.
Yeah.
And when you understand that, you can fulfill that obligation wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Very, that's a really good point. Like, for example, Raymond, one of the values that you shared while you were talking about Sobeys values was being results oriented, right? So if you understand the employer well, these would be some aspects you would focus on, because that's what you're looking for. You would look for someone who is results oriented, right?
Yes.
So if you could talk a little bit about that, like how can someone understand an employer's sort of value system and use that to stand out in the application process?
Sure. So when you talk about the organizational values and how it aligns to yourself and the goals, you can really itemize that quite well. So for example, if Sobeys value is being an inclusive organization, well, tell me how you were inclusive in your previous organizations. Tell me how you're inclusive in your current relationships that you have with individuals. How'd you create that sense of belonging for others who felt otherwise? And we each have goals year over year, and those goals align with our values, but also aligns with what our mandate is in Sobeys. Being a retailer, we have to sell goods, and we have to sell goods efficiently, and we have to sell goods where it can support all the labor expenses and all the other expenses, and we have to be profitable. By being profitable, you can talk about how you're efficient in ensuring that your goods were managed through the cycle system where there are no losses.
Yeah.
Where in retail, the concept of shrink is very, very important. Shrink is the losses you incur as a result of waste or mistakes that were made along the way. So how did you manage that? How did you mitigate that? So you can talk about the way you inventory systems, the way that you would double check, the way that you would ensure that you're writing down exactly what you need. When I say write downs, it means that you're recording the losses at the time of the loss, and this way you know what they are. So those are just some things that, I mean, some very, very general aspects of how you could communicate those metrics in what you're trying to do. And of course, there's always learning development goals for individuals. If you came to me and said, I've learned everything, I know everything, I have nothing more to develop, I'd probably say, okay, thank you for your time. And you know, I get that you're very experienced in your world, but there has to be some level of humility, and we have to be humble about who we are.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, Raymond. This has all been really good information.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a lot of learning, and I hope everyone who participated, Raymond has been gracious enough to share his contact. So please make use of it. Like, this is what we talk about through the program as well. Here are some great opportunities to interact with people there's so much to learn from them. So I hope you'll make use of it and not just do your research before you reach out to him. That's what I can suggest. If there is relevance, if there is, you feel there are skills that you can offer that will be of value to the employer, please do research, right? Take the time to do that. But what we need from you is please give us feedback on the webinar. We want to constantly improve our services and programming. So Leisure has posted a link to the survey. either now or we'll also follow it up with an email. We'll send the link by email as well, but it's just a quick 2-3 question survey. So please click on that and respond to the survey. But I want to thank all the participants as well for making the time for this. And Raymond, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, everyone, and have a good night to some of you. So thank you so much.
Bye-bye now. And I do encourage you to think about Sobeys as a potential employer. There's lots and lots that are going on at Sobeys, and we definitely need great people. And if you want to look at some of the job postings, and if you're unsure about something, please feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to help you through that, if that's what it means.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
But just remember, there is just one of me, and so so it might take time to get back to you in those items and issues.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.